Now, if you only want to know the answer to this question with no explanation, then you can skip right ahead towards the end of this video. That's where you'll find the answer. But if you're a student who's preparing for the OET exam and wants to learn how to answer questions like these, then please keep watching. Now, what kind of question do we have here? First of all, understanding that is important. It asks me, what point does the writer make about long COVID? So here the writer has given me a topic that is being discussed in the paragraph. And then he says, what point does the writer make about it, about this particular long COVID? Now, what it generally means is that they're asking you to understand the overall gist of this paragraph. And whenever you get a gist question, it's quite important you understand how a gist question is answered. When we are dealing with a gist question, it's important to recognize that we do not focus on the details. What we do want to focus on is what we call the overview. Now, what we mean by this is we don't want you to look at particular details in the paragraph. Rather, what we want you to look at is the first sentence, what kind of topic is being discussed here. Read that carefully, and then going forward in your paragraph, skim. Not read carefully, but skim. That's important to recognize. When you skim, you want to check if the next sentence is agreeing with the previous sentence or is it going on a different topic. And if it goes on in a different direction, in a different topic, in a new topic, then you want to call it the second idea, while the first one is the first idea. Similarly, you repeat this step for the next couple of sentences, and it is possible that whatever you see next is actually agreeing with the previous thing by providing more details in the same direction. So that means it is an extension of the same idea that you saw early on in the beginning. And we repeat this step with the next couple of sentences that we get here. And as a result, what do we have? We have, in a summary, a couple of ideas. It is also possible that you don't have three ideas, but rather you have only one idea, which is not a problem at all. In fact, it makes things quite easier for you. So if you realize that these are the general ideas that are being discussed and the rest of the paragraph is just making up the details for it, then you are on the right track. Then when you come back to the answer options, then you can select an answer choice which suits that entire paragraph rather than just going with a small detail. Because remember, gist means asking the question to yourself that, is this what the entire paragraph is really trying to do here? Is this what the entire paragraph discussing? If you feel that the answer you have selected is actually responding to that question, then please go ahead and use it. Otherwise, no. Now let's read the question. So the United Kingdom and the United States report that substantial. Well, when you call something substantial, that means it is a lot, it's a big deal, that substantial proportions of their populations are affected by long COVID. So basically, a lot of people in these two areas are affected by long COVID, and that these proportions have remained at similar or slightly elevated levels across the past year. That means there is little increase, or maybe they are just being constant at that number, at around 3% in the UK and 5.5% in the US. You don't need to worry about the details too much. Just understand the gist of it. And what do I understand as a gist of is that a lot of people in these areas are actually affected at these levels. Then factors likely. So we have a different thing here, which is a factor. Driving this include the chronic nature of long COVID lasting several years in some, and the high number of ongoing infections and cumulative risk of long COVID with each infection, even in highly vaccinated populations. So what has this area done for me? What I can say is that this is telling me how many people are affected by long COVID, but this tells me what factors actually led or possibly are contributing to this long COVID nature, right? And we have a couple of things here, the chronic nature and the high number of ongoing infections and the cumulative risk of long COVID as well. Correct. No problem. We don't need to get into too many details. Then individuals in low-income countries also suffer a substantial, once again, a less defined long COVID burden, moreover, children. So here now they are saying who is affected? The people in low-income countries, and then moreover, children are not. So we are adding on to the same thing when I'm saying moreover. You realize that, right? I'm not going in a different direction. Children are not spared, with up to 5.8 million children estimated to have the disease in the US alone. So once again, they're saying that low income countries and then the children also are getting this. Using the UK and US figures to extrapolate the global prevalence, basically, it means how widespread it is. Global prevalence of long COVID generates an estimate of several hundred million people with long COVID. Now, I want you to notice a couple of things here. When you first started reading the paragraph, what did we see? We saw that there was a comparison between the UK and the US, and they were telling us that a lot of people, basically around this many people, have been affected by long COVID in the last year or so, correct? And then in the last area, what have we seen? That listen, if you use the UK and US figure, we are going back to the same idea. If we use the UK and the US figures, which we have given you here, then it shows the global prevalence of long COVID. It shows basically an estimate of several hundred million people. So they're trying to say that a lot, in general, a lot of people are affected by this particular COVID, and not just in the US and the UK, because we are using this figure to generate the global prevalence. And that means we are saying that all over the world, globally, people are affected by this. Do you understand? We have come back to the same idea, and we have simply just said, listen, use these figures to talk about the entire world. These are that important, these figures. And then the remaining paragraph talks about which possible factors led to this and who else is affected. That's it. If I am able to categorize my paragraph like this, if I'm able to summarize my paragraph like this, that okay, they talked about, first of all, how many people are affected in the US and UK. Second, they talked about which factors possibly make the long COVID last longer. And then the third thing they talked about was basically who is affected, and they talked about the low income countries, and they talked about the children also being affected, and then they talked about how these numbers actually represent the hundreds and millions of people all over the world. So they are again coming back to the same idea with a few details mentioned in between. They have not gone on a different tangent. They have not said that the long COVID is not happening. That's how I know what is my overview in this particular question or in this particular paragraph. Remember, the reason why I'm discussing this in so much detail rather than giving you the answer directly is because a lot of students are going to complain when they see a lengthy paragraph in their OET question papers. Please understand that OET understands how much time a student might take to read an entire paragraph. And that is exactly what they are relying on. If they ask you a just question, they don't want you to read the paragraph like it's a detail-oriented paragraph and every single detail is important, because if you did that, you would require a lot of time to read. But please understand, OET doesn't want you to do that because they have given you a just question. Eh? When OET gives you a lengthy paragraph, they also give you questions which don't require you to read the entire paragraph for detail. Maybe a specific portion, maybe just get the overview, just get the gist of that paragraph, and that's enough. So don't worry if you're getting a lengthy paragraph in your question paper, because remember, you're not going to be asked to read each and every line very, very carefully and remember it all for the entire paragraph. That's just never going to happen. Now, to answer the question, what point does the writer make about long COVID? Well, it says here that it is decreasing in both the UK and US due to high vaccination rates. I know I did see high vaccination rates, but I also know that it remains at a similar or slightly elevated. Elevated means slightly higher level. So it is definitely not decreasing based on this. Answer option E is wrong. Then it is a large and growing concern. It is a large concern. It is a growing concern. Yes, it is very much so, because hundreds and millions of people with long COVID all over the world. So a lot of people are actually having this issue, and we have had the same idea overall. And here were just some details that they mentioned. So I'm quite happy with the answer option B, if I'm being honest. So I'm going to consider it, but not going to choose it right away. If you choose the answer you like right away, what are you telling to the person who has made your test is simply this: you give me an answer option that I like, I don't care about the rest, and I am simply going to move on from that question. That means it becomes very easy for me, your test maker, to give you an answer option which matches with the paragraph, which matches with something you have in the paragraph. And as a result, what will you do? You will choose that answer. You will match words, and you will get mad when the words are matched and you'll choose that as an answer and it is not the right answer, which is why you should always eliminate the remaining answer choices before selecting a correct answer. Remember, if you have the correct answer, you will be able to eliminate the answer choices easily. Now, it is primarily means mainly, it is mainly a concern in low income countries. Now, if that's the beauty of a just question, because I know where this information is in the paragraph, I can just directly go to that particular sentence and confirm if I've forgotten this little detail, which is why you don't need to remember all the details here, just this categorization that I've done on the left hand side. Okay, so individuals in low income countries also, that means they're also suffering a substantial, a bit less defined long COVID burden, and that's about it. So they don't tell me that it is mainly, most importantly, it is a concern in low income countries. So that's not the idea. C is wrong. It mainly, once again, primarily, chiefly, principally affects younger generation. They have told me that children are also not spared, with up to 5.8 million children estimated to have the disease. But it doesn't say that it is only targeting, or it is primarily mainly targeting younger generations. So this is where I have an issue with. And this is why our answer option C is going to be the correct answer. I'm sorry, answer option B is going to be the correct answer here. Yes. So the thing to remember from this question, the takeaway is that when you get a question like, what point does the writer make? What do we learn from the paragraph? You want to understand it's a just question. So don't bother looking for details. Just don't. Just understand the overall gist, what ideas are being discussed here, and mark those ideas as you go along, so that even if you get a small detail in your answer options that you want to make sure is right or wrong, you can always go to a specific area in the paragraph and confirm it, rather than having to deal the entire paragraph again. The same thing applies for your questions in your part B as well. So if you like this video, then please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Share this video with your friends who are also preparing for OET and probably have problems with this kind of question type. Let me know what else, what other different kinds of videos you would like me to keep making. And that's it. Bye-bye.